Hey y'all, we're back with another episode of Black Women Healing Podcast. And as usual, we have a special guest. But before we get started, I'm going to fix my shirt so I don't think I'm naked. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump into our quote. So the lovely Roxanne Gay has a quote that says, "Love your friends' kids, even if you don't want or like children, just do it." And Donika was like, "I like that one. Let's do it." So why do you like it so much, Donika?
Because some people they'll say they don't like kids, and that's fair. You don't have to, but like you should, you should still show up in the presence of you're an adult. You are even if you're not an adult, what's it called? You are a movement of growth and like helping another generation, another individual, another community.
Yeah.
And so it's like, regardless if you like it or not, still show up in these ways. Not saying that you have to be like babysitting and like, oh yeah, I'm coming to get the kid. But when you are around the kid, do not treat a kid like you do not like them. It's really bad,
Right.
So that's it. And I have a friend who doesn't like kids. Or you know what's funny now is I think she does like kids, but she used to be vocal about not liking kids. And her views had to change, but it was bad. Like, in a sense, like her friend, it's long story short, like somebody around her got pregnant and then the relationship looked different because obviously if you don't like kids and I have a kid, what does that mean for our friendship? Like, what does it look like me hanging out with somebody who don't like kids when I have a child,
Yeah, very true.
But that's why I'm like, that needs to be said. What you think about the quote?
I mean, I agree. I definitely agree. I think of treating kids as just human beings. So instead of saying like I don't like kids, what is the issue there? Is it something that you've experienced and things like that? But I think just treating kids as humans is key. And I feel like oftentimes people don't do that in the way that they just treat kids overall. So
this is true.
What about you, Carla?
I can understand what your friend is saying about, her dislike for kids, but kind of how I see it is like when you're in front of a child, you never want to say those type of things. You can word it in the sense of, hey, maybe you don't want to have kids, or maybe you want only a certain amount of time that's kid friendly. You want to have some adult time, you want to have some quiet time. But I personally, my background is mostly being around kids. So it's like you kind of have those moments of like you want a lot of people around and kids around, but then you may have times where you just want quiet and you want your own space. So I think you just gotta be able to communicate that in a way that's respectful to the kids, because kids are going to internalize those things.
I like that view. I never thought of it that way. I think that's a really good point. I never really thought of it that way. I do have a best friend though. It's hilarious. So she was like very vocal, like very, very vocal about not liking kids. She'd be like, I like other people's kids sometimes if I'm taking them to Disney. It was very specific. I'm taking them to Disneyland because I like Disneyland. And then we finally got down to her why. Now that she sees me with my daughter, she's like, because I thought that like your life just ended and they just run everything. And I didn't want that for my life. And now that I see that like you just grab your stuff and go and your daughter be right there with you. Now I feel like, okay, I might actually want kids now. And I actually think I kind of like kids. And so I think it's kind of getting down to also like your thoughts around why you don't like them too is important.
Yeah, like kind of like what you've experienced. Like, do you have any traumas based on how you've experienced maybe your family or some other friends and how they experienced their kids, and just you being able to take your kids out and being able to adjust and not let it consume your whole life. So I definitely agree with you. You living that life and still having your daughter, and so I think that's a good thing.
Oh, you're back. Perfect. But yeah, so last thing I heard was still living life and then having my daughter.
Yeah, for some reason I see that as freezing. Is it freezing on your end too?
No, we're good now. Are we okay now?
No, it's fine. Like you guys are a little bit blurry, just a little.
Ooh.
Okay. I think it's fine. To be honest, we just had a podcast and their person was they were blurry on our side and they said that we were blurry on their side. And then once it got done, it's a clear picture. Like the video recording is very clear, but it looked like that while doing it. But are we freezing?
Okay. That makes sense.
Freezing
It's fine.
still?
Let's just keep going.
Are we freezing though?
You're fine now.
Okay. All right. Just let us know. But
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and introduce our guest. Our guest is Carla. Carla is a Los Angeles native who manages multiple roles as a high school educator, bootcamp coach, and event host. Carla pursued her education at UC Berkeley for undergrad and Cal State Dominguez Hills, earning a teaching credential and master's of education. With experiences as a substitute teacher, she transitioned to become a full-time physical education teacher. In addition to excelling in fitness and education, Carla discovered her talent for event hosting, organizing workshops on various topics. This has established her as a vital community connector outside of her professional roles. Carla is passionate about wellness, community building, and women's empowerment, engaging with culture through music, cuisine, and events. Carla enjoys activities like dancing, sipping coffee at a local Black-owned cafe, and networking at community mixers. Carla is looking forward to hosting more events this year centered around various areas that center wellness with a focus on bridging and building up the community. So, we need to have a little bit of background. So, how did you even get into creating events and being so involved in the community?
All right, so some time ago, I actually was a part of a lot of women's Facebook groups and a lot of women's groups, and they were hosting a lot of events, good events, events where we can connect and connect with each other. But a lot of the events that they were hosting, I figured there were some areas that was missing that they would never host events centered around.
Hmm.
So it was on me, I figured, to host events that were lacking in, and they were all mostly all of the groups. They were welcoming of that. They were welcoming of me, bringing in like the skills that I have and the direction that I wanted to go into as far as the events. So I just started planning the events, start getting people that were interested in the events, kind of doing surveys to see what they like and what they didn't like, and then having the events. And then after having the event, seeing that it kind of gained like an audience. So I just kind of kept with it.
Yes, that's dope.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so I know that I've been to a few of your events. I'm not. I don't even know how we met, honestly.
I think okay, so I was having my boot camps, and I don't know if you found out about it through Sisters of LA, or I've also many years ago I attended romance and dance.
Oh, you know what though? Do you know a personal trainer named by the name of Chris?
Yes, a hundred
I think
percent.
it might have been through him actually. Maybe
So
he
he
shared
probably
your
told
boot
you.
camp or something. I'm not sure, but I know. Look, since I've met you, I just know I'm like I know this person. I'm not sure how, but when you have all these different events and things, like I try my best to pop in. But yeah, I'm just saying that I've been to Carla's events and. Yeah, it's a really nice space and it's different types of people. But we're gonna get into it. We're most definitely gonna get into it. Which I feel like that's literally the next question. How did you get into creating events and being involved in the community?
So when I was in middle school was when I got my first summer job. So this is when I was about 14 years old. They used to have these summer jobs for kids, and they will put you at either a community center, they'll put you at a summer camp, or you did something within the community. So I got started because I had a summer job, and I will, have summer camp, or they'll have like some kind of daycare center, and I was working at a center called Girls Club of Los Angeles, which is in South LA. So I kind of got started through a summer job, having summer jobs throughout the years. They even had opportunities where youth could have jobs after school. So I would have like a job within the community after school. So that was like my start, having a summer job or having some kind of employment as a youth. Started off in the community at a community center at summer camps. It kind of gave me and exposed me to opportunities to work with kids, to have a leadership position, to create programs. I remember when I was in high school, I was able to pretty much work on a project of having a youth health center. I mean, not sorry, not a health center, a health fair. And at that health fair, we had to create everything that went on. So just think, I think in high school, some high schools still probably do it, where you have like a senior project and you create something. It could come to life. or it could just be, oh, this is something that I will want to happen. So I was able to, gather some different community groups and different groups in the community that's focused on health. I was able to get different students to be a part of it. So they'll have different booths and areas to like show off, and inform the school population of, what's going on in the community, or how we're going to stay healthy, how we're going to get our fresh fruits and vegetables. I think during that time, this is when Michelle Obama was in charge of like making sure it was healthy, nutritious options into the schools, so kids could write about that. So that was like my start. And then going back to what I said before about wanting to see events and groups and meetups in the community, wanting to bring my visions to life, that's kind of like gave me that push to just do it, because it's something that I was thinking about, but it was one of those things where I did have this experience and I did work with certain people in the community, or already had like a network or some relationships built to where me having an event or me creating something wouldn't be like, oh, nobody's going to show up. It's like, oh, I know some people, or I'm a part of this organization, I'm a part of this women's group. So it was just like goes into the advertising, the marketing, the gathering your friends to come out to the event. So it kind of like helped me make something happen, or make my events and bring them to life.
Ah, thank you for sharing that. So I'm hearing that you host like a few different types of events. So how different is planning events focused on dating versus like your social events?
Yes. So in my head, I have events that caters to all aspects of wellness, whether it's financial wellness, whether it's
Mm,
the relationships, the social aspect, whether it's the fitness and health
Yes.
aspect. And then it's that huge aspect, I will say, as far as our generation, networking and relationship building is so important to excel in your jobs, excel in your personal relationships, just pretty much to excel in life. So, as far as the events that I host that are more educational versus the ones that are dating, I think when I'm talking about the educational ones, let's give you an example like home buying, like a home buyer's workshop. That's more of, people that are either interested in buying a home, already own a home, and they want to share their story with a person that's interested in buying a home, or maybe even real estate professionals that already are in that field and they want to continue educating. So when I'm promoting an event like that, I think my approach is more on that, oh, let's learn, let's do this together, let's build together. It's more on that goal setting and growth aspect. When I'm doing more social and I'm doing more dating events, it's more of let's have fun, let's eat, let's
Mm,
dance, let's relax, let's take some time to step away from the work grind. Let's step away from, the goals. We're still gonna have our goals. We're always gonna have our goals.
mm,
But it's opportunities to just relax. You don't got to judge each other as much, right? Because the world judges us all the time.
all the
You have
time.
that opportunity to just, drink something, eat something, be in the pool. When it comes to dating, yeah, you have that serious aspect of it, but there's moments where it's like, hey, I want to get to know somebody as a friend. I want to get to know somebody as more than a friend, and kind of just, it's a little bit more relaxed. You got some people that are a little bit nervous when it comes to the dating events, but then once they get in there, they're talking, they're like, oh, this isn't too bad. So I think people are willing to do it. It's just they gotta shake the nerves and just kind of enjoy themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I like the fact that you can kind of differentiate that there are some differences, but overall that you still can relax in both spaces, right? Even if it is like your fitness, financial, home buyers, all these different things, you still can relax. But there are some differences for sure. Um, okay, so what would you say are some good, easy social tips when going to such events like the ones you create?
Okay, so what I would say for sure is I think early on people have to commit to signing up to the events, right?
Mhm.
I think just to take a step further back, it's like you have to figure out what events you want to go to, and you have to commit to it. And sometimes when you go to events, you may not go with the whole group. So I think you have to kind of let go of that aspect that you have to have all your friends to go to an event. Sometimes you may have to go to an event by yourself. Sometimes you may need to get that ticket and then get them to come on. And similar to that aspect of sometimes you need to do things by yourself, be willing to do that. But when you go to an event, I would say you should come in with the mindset that you're going to talk to somebody, maybe ask a few questions and kind of get out of your shell. So if you're one of those people that go to an event and just stand back and wait, you may not have the most enjoyable experience. So what I would say is commit to going to an event, and then once you're there, walk up to somebody, introduce yourself. You don't feel pressure to like ask a dozen questions to them right there. Just let the conversation flow. Maybe give them a compliment.
Mhm.
Maybe ask them how their day was. You could talk about, their passions. You don't always have to talk about jobs and goals. You could talk
Mhm.
about, hey, today's a nice sunny day outside.
Yes.
It was raining last week. How are you liking the sun? Are you getting out? Saying little things like that, keeping it light. And if it goes to something deeper, you maybe can take it there, but there's no pressure. It's one of those things where what I would advise, commit to going to an event. And once you commit going to the event, going up to someone and meeting someone new.
Yeah.
I love that. How do you yourself manage your energy, yourself, your self care, and your energy, being all of the things that you do?
So that's where I would say it takes that moment to balance. You have moments where all the events that people want you to put on, you have the events you put on, and then you have the events that people want you to collaborate on or put on. You just got to know that you can't do everything at once, and you have to balance. There's times in my life where I'm focusing more on possibly education and work, and there's times where I'm focusing more on self care and fitness. But I'm little by little getting to a aspect where I'm doing a little bit of both. And I just think in life it's kind of hard to balance every single thing, but you'll have moments where you're able to redirect your energy, what space you're in. Are you in a space of let's do a lot of things, or are you in a space of needing to pull back to focus on some other goals or
Mhm.
areas? So what I do is I try to schedule. I use a paper planner. I also do use a planner online, but I'm really big on like having a paper planner, writing things down.
Yeah.
And if there's too much going on one week, I have to pull back. I'll pull back on some areas. And then there's times where I say, okay, I can plan an event. So let's jump back into it. So, like, sometimes people will message me and say, hey, you should plan this event. And I tell them, let me think about it. And I look at my calendar. Then I ask them their feedback, because sometimes they want you to plan it and have something, but they don't want to put any input in, or they're not going to put the time and the energy. And if you know that you need to dedicate more time in that area. But if it's not something you have the capacity for or take on, I won't do it.
I
So it's
Yes,
about
love
balance.
that.
definitely.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
I was so
also
straight to the point.
yeah, no, I love the taking like let me get back to you because I think that
Yeah.
sometimes
Mhm.
we feel pressure to say something right then and there of like yes or no when it's like hold on, thank you so much for thinking of me. Let me get back to you, in X amount of time or whatever.
Yeah.
I like that part the best. Yeah.
And I can tell you this too. I learned this from this somebody online, actually on Instagram. I have a friend. He's a part of the fire movement. It's like it's like an early retirement movement, so it's very big on finances. But he has this mindset, and he's from a different country. He has this mindset where he's very direct, straight to the point, very respectful. But sometimes, in the U.S., our culture is more of you can't be rude, right? You don't want to be rude, but in the other aspect, sometimes being too direct, people can see that as rude or disrespect. So kind of what I would say is say things clearly, be direct, but try to remain respectful in a sense.
Yeah.
So you let them know, hey, I don't think I can do that, or let me get back to you. Sometimes when you tell someone, let me get back to you, they already know. They already know it's a no.
But the thing is, it might not be. It's literally more of like a pause for you to go look at your schedule and think of your capacity emotionally, physically, financially, whatever, right? That's really what it's
Hmm.
about. But I get
That's
what you're
true.
saying. Like some people are, oh yeah, they're not gonna do it, but it's like,
Yeah, because
no.
how often do people consider themselves in that way?
What you mean?
Hmm.
I feel like people don't consider themselves and saying like, "Let me get back to you," and that being okay, and them actually taking the time to get back to you. Because I am one of those people where somebody says, "I'm gonna get back to you," I'm just like, "Okay, I count that as like a no."
You do?
Yes, but then hearing
What?
Carla, how she is having the most consideration for herself, in that she's like, "Okay, let me think about it. Let me weigh my options." If I feel like if I encountered more people like that, then I'd be like, okay, yeah, consider it. And I would even do the same thing for myself and be like, okay, let me consider other people I might want to work with too and how I'm even thinking about this. But because I'm not used to that, I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to hear back from them. And then if I do, I'll be like, oh, plot twist. Wasn't
I
expecting that.
think I think too, it's one of those things where once you start setting those boundaries and letting people know that you have boundaries, then they're going to respect those boundaries over time. Some people may not respect it right away because they're not used to you saying no or used to you having those boundaries. But once you make it clear and you communicate it to them,
Yeah.
then they will have to respect it. Or it gets to the point where they're not the ones that's in your life or in your space as often because you set a boundary towards them, and they have to respect it in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. That kind of goes into our next question of I want to ask a little bit about just like your mental health and how being in community in this way has impacted your mental health and how you've even seen it impact other people's mental health.
Yeah, so I would say, being in the community, hosting events, and having, roles in community spaces, it brings that joy, it brings that happiness, it brings opportunity, it brings access. So even if you want to take it more of a stance of like that professional setting, when you have community, you have access, you have network, you have people on your team, you have people looking after you and supporting you. If you look at it more on a personal stance, think of that family friend dynamic. Like everybody needs a friend, everybody needs family. So I think it it brings joy. So if I was to like sum it up as one whole, having community brings joy. It brings opportunity. And has definitely affected my mental health in a positive light because it keeps me motivated and it keeps me, I guess, in a sense, recharged. And I always think about the people that are not as social because even though they're not as social, they need community too, but they just need those like spurts of community, like these little bitty pockets of energy or opportunities to just get out, and then they can retreat back to their safe space. But for myself, I personally believe that community has brought me joy, and with joy, it opens up opportunities for to feel other things, to feel safe, to feel welcomed, to feel I can call on someone, to be able to communicate. Has created a lot of opportunities for me.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many different pieces we can talk about here, and
Mm-hmm.
we probably most definitely got to do a part two, just to like dissect even further to like some of these events and like and just getting like because I really love that piece too of like the of you talking about like good easy tips of going to these events because I feel like that a lot of time is the issue where people don't have the like skills, the social
Yeah.
skills, or the confidence
Mm-hmm.
to push themselves through that uncomfortable piece where, and I find myself too, where sometimes I want to do something, I'm like, who's going to do it with me? Oh no, this friend can't do it. They have this, they have that, but it's like, okay, how can I push myself through those uncomfortable moments
Yeah.
to go by myself? And sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't, but I like this piece of you saying like sign up for the thing, right? Like, because then at that point, that's your accountability. But
Hmm.
I really like those pieces, so I do want to make sure that we could do another episode on that specifically.
Yeah.
Um, but for this episode, at the end of our podcast, we always do takeaways, which is anything that you want to leave with our audience. Um, What would you say your takeaway would be?
So yeah, going back to uh, signing up for events, but what I would say also is there's like so many sites that you can go on. I'll just name a few. You got Eventnor, you got Eventbrite, you got people's personal websites. You have obviously you go on Facebook, the event section. A lot of small businesses and people that are hosting events, they're posting their private events on there that you can kind of follow the link and sign up. But just to kind of give you a takeaway, I would say most specifically as far as getting out in the community, supporting the community, I would say is to look and see what organizations are around you. Especially as Black women, there's Black women organizations that are run by Black women. Black women support them, continue to send Black women to these events. I would say just patronize your local small businesses, reach out to them. A lot of times there's some services that you can gain from them, but also there's some services and skills that you have that you can pour into them. And it could be either a job, it can be a contracted position, it could be, an intern position. There's so many opportunities. So the takeaway I would say for everyone that's watching is to make sure that you get involved in an organization or a Black owned business, and for sure make sure to seek out Black women ran businesses and spaces. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Black Women Healing Podcast, and we thank you, Carla, for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good day. You guys can follow me at